Hi there, I'm Ahsan Ali Shaw, and you're watching me on YouTube and Facebook Live. Today, we are going to talk about self identity and the immunity system, and how our immunity system is our real self identity. It is the continuation of the topic that we have been discussing for the past 2 weeks, and it is the third episode of the immunity system, and we are diving deeper into this topic. And to discuss this topic, my guest is Edward Konowicz, and he has joined us from Virginia, United States.
Yeah, hi
Hey Ed,
everybody. How are
how
you?
you doing? Yeah,
I'm
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 good.
doing okay. I'm trying to paste the link on my Facebook. So
Hey Adam, how are you? Adam has just joined us.
yeah, I'm doing great. This is one of my favorite topics,
Hmm.
and
I know it
I
is.
think I can push forth a revolutionary thesis.
Mhm.
So this is an important. It may really be a historical important video, of course, of what I'm going to conclude.
Okay.
And what I'm going to conclude, there's two
Mhm.
parts to our thinking. Is one is based on our brain, which has a complex nervous system that interacts with the heart, which is equally complex thinking system that instead of neurons, it uses white blood cells called T cells. And the T cells are for the thymus, the organ, the thymus exists over the heart. It lies over the heart. And the heart basically controls the production of T cells, which are in control of our immunity system. So I'm saying our heart, who we love and who we're close to, is in control of our immunity system, which is our self identity and group identity. And it does this by a very complex process of T cells. On my Facebook page, where I announced I was going live with you, I put the link. Let me see if I can put the link here. No, I can't put the link here, but let me put it in the private chat and maybe you can put the link in. Yeah, hold on a second. Well, mental stability is a complex thing. Uh, it's not just mental stability. It's I would say differentiation. I'm going to discuss differentiation. Let me get back to my Facebook page. And differentiation is very important, which is what's the difference? Stop putting everything under one topic. And I think that's what really cancer is, a lack of differentiation. So, yeah, I'm going to come to some momentous conclusions. And one of them is that we have to look at differences. We can't lump everything together. And lumping everything together is important in summary. Well, what's the main idea? Like, for example, I said we have two self identity systems. One is the brain and the nerves, and the other is the heart and the thymus and the white blood cells or T cells. The white T cells, which are the thymus cells, the cells that develop. And I think I can explain this and prove by words and the facts of the organs. And I'm looking for the link that I wanted. Hold on, trying to paste it. But cell differentiation is really important. And yeah, maybe I ought to. I think this is the link. And I'll paste it under private chat and then someone can paste it. But anyway, let me explain this. I covered last time that the way it happens is what our immunity system is our white blood cells. When we get an infection or a tumor, our white blood cells are activated to defend ourselves against the infection or tumor or foreign material, even toxins like a snake bite. For example, a horse can be bitten by a rattlesnake and survive without much damage, or a mongoose bitten by a cobra. But we can't. The horse can, we can't. So then you try to get the antibodies, which is the gamma globulin from the horse that was given a snake bite, and they take the gamma globulin proteins and they use that to treat snake bite. And it can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that's better than losing an arm or dying from a snake bite. Of course, the horse has an immunity system where their white blood cells produces an antibody to neutralize the toxin of the snake bite.
Yeah, it means we have a weak immunity system.
Compared to a horse, a
Yes.
horse has generally a better immunity system.
Mhm.
So we use a horse for like rabies. And, they call it a rabies vaccine. It's not true. It's not a vaccine.
Hmm.
They infect a horse with rabies. The horse's white blood cells produce the antigen, which is now, so people don't understand it, produce the antibody to the antigen of this snake bite. The antibody is now called gamma globulin and then is called a rabies vaccine. So they keep switching the names, they being the establishment, which doesn't want people to understand their biological processes.
Interesting.
Yes.
I didn't know
So the
that
rabies
people
vaccine
thought.
initially is not a vaccine. It's an antibody from a horse.
Hmm.
Now you can die from that because your immunity system can react to the antigens. Now, what the antigen is, and there's a lot of terms. I had to read this article about 10, 15 times and look up some of the terms. And it takes a while for your brain to get used to this. So let's go over this again. You have white blood cells, which is your immunity system, which is literally called self and non-self, which is your immunity system is not supposed to attack you. It's supposed to attack bacteria, viruses, toxins like a snake bite that bother you. The T cells are in control. They're called T cells because they develop in the thymus. And the thymus lies over the heart. The thymus deteriorates as we get older, but our T cells do not. Because I think it's really our heart is in control. So, what is the central organ of our immunity system? Is the thymus and the heart, and it reverts to the heart. And proof of this is, I'm going to prove it. The last organ to get cancer is the heart. People get skin cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer, even eye cancer. Not much eye cancer, but the most protected place in our body from foreign cells is the heart.
Is the heart.
And that's because it is the immunity system. It is the control of the immunity system, which is how we feel. Now, it reacts with the brain and interacts because what we have is basically chemical messaging. And we have organs in the brain that participate in the chemical messaging of the body. Most of the messaging in the human body, in all bodies, are chemical messages. Even in the nervous system, the two
What
nerves
about
meet.
what about
And
electronic and the other wireless communication? Does it happen?
Well, I think there is wireless communication. I think we're fooled by the electrical activity of the brain. I'm going to explain this, and I think I'm correct. The electrical activity of the brain is powering the cells to secrete chemical messages. I mean, you get electroshock or you get radiation from electromagnetic source like your cell phone, you don't start seeing a different reality. You take a chemical drug that affects your neurotransmitters, which are chemicals. Now you may see a different reality because the
And,
chemistry is more the communication. The
and I was
electrical activity of the brain, and I'm disagreeing with modern science. The electricity of the brain, the electrical act, is like plugging in your computer. The information is not coming from the electricity. The electricity is powering your computer so it can get the information from a router or an access point. Your power cord isn't giving you the information. It's powering your laptop or computer or your charger, your battery is powering your cell phone so your cell phone can now exchange information. The electrical activity on the large scale is not the movement of information, it's the power to the cells. And the actual communication is chemical. That's why drugs, whether it's marijuana, alcohol, caffeine, these chemicals affect how you think.
and I was watching your last video and the the other video on this topic, and it gave me an idea that it seems like every cell in our body is working independently and also collaborating with the whole system.
Well, the collaboration differs per cell. For an example, we have organs, which is cells organized into an organ, and they communicate with their DNA, which is the DNA acts as an antenna, and it lases, which means it gives a coherent frequency, so the cell next to it can tune to it. And of course, the highest radiation is coming from the heart. So the heart cells tune really well to each other so you don't get cancer. You get cancer in the brain because the brain is not as well tuned as your heart. So whom you love and whom you accept is more
Is
important than
important.
what you think.
Hmm.
So we have our heart symbolically about who we love, our family, who we like, what does our heart like? It's real. Our heart
Hmm.
has its own independent nervous system and it controls the body as much as the brain, but it uses the immunity system. So you have the nervous system, which is carrying on your thinking and analysis, and then you have your feelings, which is your immunity system and your heart. And rather than neurons, you have T cells. And this is huge because it explains cancer. When you're in tune with yourself, and the major tuning organ is the heart, you don't get cancer. When you're not in tune with yourself, when you can't differentiate, which is you lump everything together, God,
Hmm. Hmm.
unconditional love, you just lump things together. Then you could be subject to cancer because you're just lumping things together. You're going to get a growth, a lump, because you can't differentiate. As a human being, you need to begin to study who's friend or foe, how to use language correctly. Now, it doesn't mean you need a college degree or a PhD to differentiate.
Degree is something else.
Yeah, you need an analytical mind that you can analyze a person. Are they close to you? Are they not close to you? What bridges should you have with them? And your heart does this. We even say that. Now, we have other organs participating in it. So it's not like it's only the heart, but it's a second level of self is your heart. Now, you look at a dog, and people don't understand this. A dog knows it's chemical communication. So what do? They sniff you. You know, you have a conversation with a human being. A dog has a conversation by smelling you. They know how you're thinking by your smell. And dogs can detect cancer by the smell.
And when we were doing video on consciousness, and I was researching on consciousness topic, and I came across the same example of dogs. Dogs know when their owner is coming home, and even he is not at the door, but they get the idea. They come to the door and wait for the owner to come, and 10 or 15 minutes he comes back home, and they I don't know the person name, but he experimented it many times with like with many people, with many pet
Yeah,
owners.
Rupert Sheldrake, Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. He's
Yeah.
um, the excellent biology researcher, Rupert Sheldrake. And he found that dogs do feel when their owners intend. They didn't get in their car yet.
And
They're packing up, and then the dog starts going to the window because they feel it. We do that with lovers. If we fall in love, we can feel the person at a distance.
what about
And
the mother's love for the infant? Mother knows what's happening with the child, even there's a thousands of miles of distance there.
yeah, there is telepathic communication, and it's rare. It's not common. Regular communication is only about 25% accurate, which is a person's only going to have a skill of words to express about 50% of what they think and feel. Most people do not have much skill with words. And the person listening is only going to hear 50% correctly. So when we're talking, we usually have a reliability of about 25%.
And there's a saying, I'm only responsible for whatever I say. I'm not responsible, but you understand.
Right.
There's a
So
bad.
so we and like communication here, people are only going to be able to get about 25% of the idea. They can't get the whole idea. Now telepathy is down to about 5%. So and most people can't filter it. The problem with telepathy is you're experiencing a lot of people's thoughts. Can you filter it? And then you have to translate. It's mostly feeling. The heart, which is the largest electromagnetic signal, is mostly how you feel. So parents, when their children are in trouble, can feel it because the mood changes, and the heart is not directly in control of the mood, but directly in control of particularly the white blood cells, the T cells, which then control the hormones. And they actually produce some of the hormones, such as interferon, interleukin, growth hormone, which then affect the other endocrine organs, such as the thyroid and such as the pituitary, the pineal gland, the hypothalamus, the adrenal glands. Much of our thinking is feeling, and a lot of feeling is more intelligent than thinking. And that's based upon a system largely coordinated by the heart because these chemical messages travel through the blood. And the blood travels pretty fast. You can get a chemical message within a half a second or shorter. And scientists have tried to do this. They tried to use two of the hormones, messengers, which was interleukin. There's a bunch of interleukins and interferons that are created by white blood cells to treat cancer. But that's like using a dictionary and picking two or three words. The cells do not talk in one hormone. They talk in a ratio of hormones. They talk in sentences. And each hormone is like a different word. And so at the synapse between two nerves that are communicating, you have a ratio of neurotransmitters, and the neurotransmitters are like hormones, like noradrenaline can get you hyped up, or adrenaline, adrenaline rush when you're threatened. And people don't study this. Medicine is a closed subject because medicine is controlled by the pharmaceutical industry and by hospitals and their need to make a ton of money. So the information is not available to the public. And doctors are taught to be in control, so they're going to discredit any amateur that tries to approach a different understanding of medicine. So I'm
I think
saying you
there,
have two self-identities, one through your nervous system and one through your immunity system, which is controlled by your heart. Your nervous system is largely controlled by your brain. But all of them are chemical messages.
I
The
think the
electrical
approach.
activity is powering the cells so they release the chemical messages. So they have it wrong. The electrical activity is not the thinking. It's reflective of a thinking because different areas of your brain that see or use speech or coordinate your muscles are activated, and you can see, analyze what's activated, and conclude a little bit what's being said. But what is being said is chemical messages, and that's why plants without a brain are a coordinated life form. And we even have plants like the Venus flytrap that capture insects, which is plants don't use a brain. They use chemical messages or hormones to communicate. Now, there's a certain amount of wireless communication going. We finally have accepted wireless communication because it's been so prevalent in the last 20 years. But our body does wireless communication, particularly the heart, because the heart has the most integrated signal that can be modulated. See, you take a signal, a frequency, and then you change the frequency, usually faster frequencies, to put information onto that base frequency, and that's called modulation. But I don't want to confuse people. I want to get to the major idea, which is the heart plays a major role in your self-identity, and that
Uh,
educates or trains the T cells. The T cells in your body, the white blood T cells, are as important as your nerves. They're as important as your brain and your nerves. And if your immunity system collapses, you die with infections, you die with cancer, because your self has been violated by another consciousness. The hormone's supposed to be in harmony, which is it's not just one hormone, Linda. There's not just one hormone. You're correct. So you got different hormones, different messages. It's like reading a book. There's a lot of different sentences and paragraphs and chapters, but it's got to hold together. Same with your
yes.
body is a book of information, and the different hormones are like different sentences that have to go together. And how your white blood cells are working is they create what's called a cytokine. Let me get this term correct. They create a cytokine storm. And what a cytokine storm is, which you'll hear and read, is the inflammation. But what the inflammation is your white blood cells are releasing a bunch of hormones. They're communicating. They're telling the body, I have an infection here or an injury here. We're going to need some stem cells. We're going to need some B cells, which make antibodies. Now, how this all takes place is every cell has a signature. You know how we have a signature and it's supposed to be unique? We signed a paper or we have our facial features recognized. We have a signature that's supposed to be unique for us. Well, a
I
cell
think I
has a
think those
unique,
cells I think those cells are also working independently, and they have a
well, a little bit.
decisive mechanism that they can decide at the moment what to attack and what not to.
Yes, they do, but they have to be educated. The
Hmm.
thymus educates them, which is you have two types of T cells, one that will attack yourself and one that will attack foreign bodies. And the thymus tries to stop those cells that automatically attack you, like in diabetes or arthritis. The particular ones are the T cell CD4 and even lower CD321. They are the regulatory cells that try to stop the B cells that communicate or the killer T cells, which will tend to be your T8s or CD8s, from attacking and killing your own cell because these are warriors. They're going to kill cells. And your body, your heart, has to communicate to them what cells to kill, what cells not to kill. And of course, when we fall in love with someone or get close to them, particularly if a woman has a child, that child has to be within the self definition. Otherwise, you would have an allergic reaction. Otherwise, these killer T cells. Now, what's interesting, when you have immunity, you have these memory cells, you have memory T cells. The memory T cells remember the invasion for several decades. Your natural immunity lasts decades. Your B cells remember the antibody for years and almost decades. But what controls the B cells, which produce the antibodies, which are the chemical attacks, what produces this, the antibodies are the B cells, and they have memory cells to remember how to produce that particular antibody. The killer T cell has a memory to know which things are enemies. Now, how it knows is every cell has a signature. That signature is called an antigen. We should call it a signature so people know. It's very hard with all the different terms. The first time you hear a term, your
Mhm.
brain, unless it's heard it 100 times, just kind of turns off. Every cell on its surface of its membrane has a signature. That signature to identify itself, an ID, a driver's license. That signature, which is unique per type of cell, is called an antigen. Your T cells read it. They get it and present it to like the B cells, and then the B cells can produce an antibody. They get it and present it to other T cells and teach other T cells to attack cells with that signature. And this is so complicated with so many decisions.
Mhm.
No biologist or doctor wants to explain, well, how are these cells making all these complicated decisions of differentiation? I mean, you may have 30 different types of T cells or more. You may have hundreds of different antibody B cells. and they're all coordinated.
Mhm.
And the only
So,
thing that can do it is our thinking.
and
How do
how
you
do you
feel?
simplify it, summarize it so a person could understand it?
Okay, we have two forms of self-identity, our brain and nerves. The second form of identity is our immunity system, which is controlled by the heart. The heart educates the white blood cells, the T cells, in the thymus, which lies over the heart. The thymus is where the T cells differentiate. Differentiate means change into different T cells. They become different T cells. And these different T cells learn to recognize and attack certain cells and not attack certain cells. And they've been under the management of the heart. And most of the communication in the body is through chemistry, neurotransmitters, hormones,
Cells,
cytokines. This is what
blood.
interferon is, interleukin. And these didn't work. They tried to use them for cancer therapy, but they just put the interleukin or interferon, and the doctors or researchers couldn't speak the sentences. Our body uses a ratio of chemicals, a ratio of different chemicals. So what cancer is a failure to differentiate. That's what I'm always criticizing very harshly. People who say unconditional love. No, you love your spouse different than you love your children, than your relatives, than close friends. You need to differentiate. You need to stop lumping things together and stop being cancerous. Because the cancerous cells are infantile, they're baby talk. And the reason why the doctors can't use these because they don't know how to use the chemicals in sentences. They're just going to give you one or two chemicals. They can't express the sentences necessary. They don't understand it because they don't understand chemical communication, which is what all life does, is chemical communication. And that's what the dog is doing. It's smelling chemical communication.
So, Ed, what are your final thoughts
My
to
final thoughts
this?
are people need to get smart and start studying, whether it's formal or people around them, and stop just generalizing. It's good to summarize, but start
Summarizing
knowing the
this way.
difference between people. No, don't do this unconditional love or unconditional hate. Start seeing the differences in life and appreciate the differences. Viva la difference. Appreciate the differences and stop depreciating it. You don't love everyone the same way. You don't hate everyone the same way.
The same way.
And your body needs to tune all these very specific functions with your mind. Your mind has to carry out these specific functions. You can't be doing baby talk. And too many people are encouraged to do it because it's easy. They get rewarded by society, and now they become victims to disease. They become victims to their own lack of awareness. So you want to be healthy, differentiate, know the difference. Don't treat everything the same. Yeah, particularly Mike just said this. Don't be
Mhm,
regurgitating someone else's opinion. Form your
mhm,
own unique opinion. Get your own antigens unique. Yeah, laziness in our society is rewarded.
mhm.
Okay, I think I covered it. We've gone
Yes,
34 minutes.
yes. And
Why does the
thank you,
thymus
Mike.
shrink? That's a good question. Because the heart takes over. Initially, the heart can't do it, so it uses the thymus to store the T cells. And then once the heart develops enough relationship, I think, the thymus isn't needed. Doesn't that make sense? Do we have any other questions? Let me look at the questions real fast. Give me 5 minutes
Uh,
just to, in case I need to. I want to look at the questions.
Okay, I'm gonna put it on screen. Everything gets
Okay.
a talking children now. Okay,
Yeah,
here.
placebo effect. You got to believe. You need to believe in what you do.
Yeah,
Yeah, removing social programming is essential because that social programming is baby talk. Doesn't differentiate. They want to act like everyone's the same, everyone gets the same drug or vaccine. That's
it doesn't
damaging.
work.
It
Yes,
doesn't work. Each
yes,
person is different with different needs.
yes.
I mean, it's so
Yeah,
bad
uh,
with the pharmaceutical organized crime. They're not even giving dosages per weight anymore. That's how rotten it is. That's how criminal.
mm,
When I was a kid, your dosage depended on your age and weight. And now that organized crime runs hospitals, they just give everyone the same dose for the
yeah.
most part. It's that
So
criminal.
ridiculous. How
Yeah.
ridiculous is that?
I
Okay, I
mean, it's
think.
just, it's not science,
Yeah.
it's propaganda,
mm,
it's bullying. The hospitals are bullying doctors and nurses and people. They're criminals. And they bully by putting you into baby talk. You're not supposed to ask intelligent questions. You're
Yeah.
supposed to either say yes
Oh
or no.
no.
And
Mm,
you're not supposed to be able to be educated enough to ask the questions about the drugs. They don't even want to tell you what's in the drugs anymore.
yeah. Yeah,
That's how
people
bad it
doesn't need
is.
to know. I think it has become the medical industry or the pharmaceutical industry has become a dictatorship. Yeah, they want answer.
Yeah,
Yes, no.
criminal bullying.
Yes. And I think we have covered enough. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, thank you, Linda. Thank you,
Okay,
Melissa. Thank you, Adam. And thank you, other people, for joining us. And it was the last episode on self-identity and the immunity system.
yeah, I'll carry
And
that on my webpage. I mean,
yes,
on Facebook page. I'm
yes,
on Facebook, and if you have any questions later, just
please.
I've got two threads, one with the link to here and one announcing this was coming. You can put the question on either one, and I'll or disagreement, whatever, and I'll address it. Okay, bye
Thank you,
everybody.
and have a good day, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are. And I'll see you tomorrow with Melissa and with Paul.